if you're looking for a small cap company that is not only not impacted by the potential tariff war between the US and Canada, but in fact could benefit from a potential trade war between the US and Canada, then you're going to love this interview with HPQ Silicon, who is shattering the metrics and the processes for how to produce fumed silica. If you don't know what that is, you're going to find out all about it. It's a huge market we use all the time. And here to talk about it is Bernard Tourillon, CEO. Bernard, welcome back, my friend.
Thank you. Welcome back.
All right. Every company is trying to figure out potential tariff impacts. Right. So you're no different there, but investors want to know who's going to be impacted, who's not. What is fumed silica used for? And how could a potential tariff war impact the Canadian market?
Well, first of all, there's no Canadian manufacturer of fumed silica. So 100% of our fumed silica is imported, mostly from the US because and some of it is from China. Two countries which right now are having fun, having a little bit of a trade war with us. So there is no local supplier to replace them, okay? Or they might have to go get them in Europe to get it back without tariff, but then the shipping cost is going to go through the roof because you got to ship it from here to here. There. The key point, the reason why I wanted to address this is simple. One of the reasons why there's no suppliers, Canadian suppliers or manufacturer of fumed silica, is because of the structure of the industry. Okay, traditional process, complicated, expensive, multi-stage system that need a different infrastructure that's very, very big. So the Canadian market, although it's a decent size, 20,000 to 24,000 ton a year, it's not big enough to support. So you need to be a place where you can if you have the North American, the Canadian, U.S. market, then it becomes big enough to basically support it. Since its inception, one of the concept that HPQ has been pushing is always to how do you think that we re-engineered technologies that were offshore because of environmental and cost structure. And the key point why I wanted people to realize where we're really not impacted, we're actually one of those that could be benefiting from this in the sense that we are innovating company that are basically going to improve, allowed to improve the Canadian ecosystem. Because if you are a end buyer of fumed silica for your product, because fumed silica is a sandwich material, okay? You're now going to start to ask yourself a question. Where am I going to get my material? How much is it going to cost me? All those issues are going to play around. But if there's a Canadian supplier that's able to do it, there's no impact. And then, the technology then also can move to the US, and we can install system there in the US to feed the US, but we're not obligated to feed the world from the US. We can feed the Canadian market. And I say the Canadian market is spread between a few provinces, then we choose central location and cover it. But the key point is the Canadian market is significant in size to support multiple 1,000-ton per year system.
Yeah, doing the calculations that I looked at in the press release, and then you and I spoke just before this, it's actually 160 to US dollars, 160 $200 million market per year in Canada. I thought the ratio was 10 to 1. The US is always 10 times bigger, but in fact, the Canadian market is 40% the size of the total North American market. That's a big market, 160 to $200 million US. That's not small potatoes.
Yeah, and that's something I hadn't overly talked about it, but I knew those numbers because I bought an analyst report and knew those type of issues. And you probably don't. I think everybody has your same reasoning, which is the same one. Probably one of the reasons why it's so big is because it's sandwich material, and a lot of people are using it in different applications. So they end up needing it
for a lot of new people listening. What I know the HPQ people know it. But what are a lot of the applications for new people who are going to be listening or watching? What are the applications for fumed silica in Canada or in general?
Well, no, fumed silica application in Canada, fumed silica application all over the world is the same. So it's basically a material that's used as a thickener agent. Okay, so it's used in application ranging from cosmetic, paint, and one of the new ones that seems to be coming around is lithium-ion batteries. And what it does is reinforce polymers. It has a high surface areas. So it's one of those materials. Like it's used in food. I give you the best example when you have ketchup. Okay, you know the old joke when the anticipation is called thixotropy. Basically, that's how you
Yeah, yeah.
controlled the distribution of the material and you controlled it into it. So it's used in a tons of things. So maybe there's a lot of people that buy, 500 ton, thousand, less than that, or less than that. That's how where the market is. But in an aggregate size, it's a very decent size for HPQ, and there's for HPQ Silica Polvere, really there is no Canadian competitor, and we have a technology that's so unique. And as I said in the press release, and those are our point that we really wanted to re-stress, okay? Because I think the uh, the tariff situation, okay, highlights a fear that we can't really be competitive. And I think Canada, and this is what we're demonstrating, Canada has the know-how, and we can do things that are fantastic here, and we can basically succeed with this. That's really one of the points I always wanted to say, that we're a Canadian company doing Canadian solution to a world problem, and it can have real world application for us.
The impact to Canadian companies and consumers could be material then, because what you're saying is it's used in everything from
Mhm.
food to cosmetics
Yeah.
to
Mhm.
even lithium ion batteries. I mean, we're not even talking about that right now, but it's pretty broad based.
Yep.
Now,
Mhm.
here's the big question for you that's going to be more from HPQ investors than general investors. It's no secret that you've signed an LOI with the biggest fume silicon company in the world, Evonik, and
Mhm.
that you've discussed the goal of it is to get a deal, some kind of joint venture, sale, offtake agreement, whatever that may be.
Mhm.
And that's what all your investors have really been waiting for. Right? And it's with a lot of discussion being around happening now in the first half of 2025 ballpark.
Mhm.
What impact could a tariff war have an impact on those discussions, on the negotiations? Could it delay? Could it accelerate? Uh, let's discuss that.
I would think it would mostly accelerate it than delay it. I have no reason. I think that part of the discussion is mostly related to advancing the pilot plant efficiency to go to semi-continuous operation, making material that's going to be quality grade. This is where we are in the system. So, it's a good opportunity for me to get everybody their mind over the system. Nothing negative has happened. Nothing wrong is going on. But the tariff do take a lot of oxygen in the room right now. So it's important to say we're not really going to be affected by it. We think it creates an opportunity for us, and that's the way you have to look at it. You can either like. I'm sorry for the guys that are in the aluminum business. It might be more a hard opportunity, but for us, it is an opportunity for us, and we'll probably end up needing aluminum and steel and metal to build our plants, and we'll do them in Canada. So, these are all going to things that come along. So we have a Canadian solution that can be built in Canada, that can be deployed in Canada, that can meet the Canadian clients. The message is, let's not be overly negative about it. Let's be positive, and let's look at how Canadian companies like HPQ and Pyrogenesis can use their know-how to advance things. That's really the message. There's nothing negative has changed. Nothing is ongoing wrong with our project. Everything's moving forward.
And before the tariff war, this all began.
Mhm.
Uh, I'm assuming the Canadian market, you say in the press release, is good for 20 to 24,000 tons annually. I'm
Mhm.
assuming before this, as you're envisioning what potential relationship there would be with Evonik and how this may shake out, that it was probably locate a bunch of plants in and around the United States and maybe ship into Canada or something like that. I don't know. But does this change the dynamic? We're saying, well, we're aiming for 1,000 ton per year plants, and Canada needs 20 to 24,000 tons.
Mhm.
Does this susceptibility here, this weakness, uh, maybe now shift to Canadian commercial facilities in the next couple of years?
Um,
1,000, 10, maybe not 20 to 24, but 10 to 12 or something like that. Whereas before you weren't considering that.
no, I was always considering, but never was in a position to, how can I say this? There's a point where you can start arguing this and discussing this and not there. That's why I think this is a great opportunity for me to start talking more about it. So, okay. First thing to resolve, where does a 1,000 ton per year commercial plan come in? It comes out of discussion we had with Evonik, okay? Because it's all dependent on the scaling up risk we wanted to take. So if we wanted to be ultra conservative, we would go from 50 ton to 500 ton system, okay? But if we wanted to be really at a commercial size that's meaningful, we at least have to go to 1,000 ton, which is a 20 times scaling up from what we've done at pilot scale, okay? So we decided 1,000 ton, and in my mind it says, okay, 1,000 ton, that makes sense, because I prefer the concept of having multiple 1,000 ton reactor than one massive 5,000 ton reactor, okay? There might be argument over, how many people you need to operate it, but still it doesn't really change anything. It's the advantage is really there. So you look at the Canadian market, and I always looked as, can we survive in the Canadian market without exporting? Now, the original idea was probably to design it in Canada, do the first one. If it worked, we'll build more everywhere else. But in my mind, I wanted to be able to show to potential institutional investor, which I'm having discussion with, listen, let's just look at Canada. Let's not look at the world, just look at Canada. There's a market of up to 20,000, assuming we take 50% because our system is going to be, much more cleaner, more efficient, all those advantage. And you make the math. You assume you get on average $7.50 US per kilogram, which is $75,000 a ton. You have 10 systems that do 1,000 ton per year. You get an idea of the number. 75
million per system,
75
750 million
million
for
for
10
the 10, yeah,
systems.
7.5 per system, and then so 10 system is $75 million. So that's the ballpark. Oh, and that's just starting one market, one small market, which is Canada. That's why everything is designed toward this. This is why we designed the pilot plant the way we did it. We issued many press releases. This is why we took a little bit longer to get ourselves in this position, is because we wanted to make sure that we had a system that we can easily replicate 10 times bigger once we go to true commercial size, okay? So
Can we redo that math for a second? A
Yeah.
1,000 tons production per year, and you get 70. How much you get per ton?
You get, if you go for ton, it'd be 7,500. So it'll be 7.5
Okay, all right.
7.5 million per system.
Okay, got it.
Okay. 7.5. So if you have 10 of them, then you multiply that by 10.
Got it.
And as we've published, our gross margin are in the 70 plus. So it'll be profitable. Okay, I can't say too much about these things because I have to have studies. So let me put a disclaimer. This will all be validated after we have the pilot plan. There we go. I've done my disclaimer.
And rewind that, relist it again if you have to, just to make sure you're clear about that. But this really, I don't know if you've spoken to any Canadian potential customers. Like I don't know how many users there are, commercial users, but do you get the feeling that this may accelerate the industry saying, hey, we don't want to be susceptible to this. This scares us right now. And we don't want to be susceptible to this in the future. So yes, damn it, we definitely want production in Canada, and we're willing to back HPQ by offtake agreements or agreements because we definitely want to hedge some of our supply to be here locally and never have to be in this position ever again in the future. Does this accelerate potentially creating that Canadian production? Or is it too
We
early
shall
to tell?
see. I think it's a little bit too early to tell, but in my mind, it's sort of, if I'm sort of like Evonik or any player here that realize that the Canadian market could be subject to those tariffs, and there's a solution for me to be able to do it cheaper, make it locally, and meet my Canadian demand, it might make even the technology more and more much more attractive. This is why, once we go to semi-continuous and then continuous scale operation, it'll be cool. It'll be really great, and then we'll be able to showcase our technologies.
So your priority, just to be clear for everyone at home, is even though you've talked about as a result of this, HPQ may become Canada's first domestic producer of fumed silica.
Well, the moment we
which
start
wouldn't be
making it,
much.
we will become. There's no other.
Yeah, yeah, you will be. And you're saying by Q4, which could be earlier. But even if you did, you're looking at 50 tons, which based on your math is about $350,000 US a
Mhm.
year, which is just under $500,000 a year, which is great. I mean, it's good while you're still in this ramping up phase. But to be clear, what's your priority the next few months here? Is it becoming a commercial producer or getting offtake agreement or agreements done between Evonik and or other companies under NDA?
Um, you see, if I said talking about a fumed silica and a fumed silica technology. Okay. So my first priority is naturally try to finalize the offtake agreement, uh, get the terms organized so that everybody feels comfortable with them, because that will increase the credibility of our technologies. Now we have to make sure that we give ourselves as much room to grow, or we get paid undecent amount of money to be happy. And keep something into the play. And then you got to remember, we announced that our fume alumina and fume titanium that we can do with the same technology, which is about the same size market, which there is no Canadian producer and of those materials. So anyway, I'm digressing, but the key point is the idea of having the pilot plant working commercially and producing sample is because we will get a lot of demand for sample for product validation. And then people can say, okay, we like this model. We'll sign an offtake agreement. And once you have offtake agreement, then the financing of building the commercial plant becomes much easier because you already have a buyer for your product. You already basically know the cost of all the issues, the entrance, all those issues. So it gets to be closer. So this is where we're at the beginning phase of this, but the closing phase is going to be relatively quick. It's, we've demonstrated the machine can replicate to do fume silica material like on the first test. So the rest of it's going to be just like we did at the lab scale, but just at a bigger size. And then go to
Funding your
semi-continuous and
growth
then go
won't
for it.
require you diluting the stock. If the stock hasn't caught up to the story, I know you're not happy with
Mhm.
where the stock is relative to the story, but at that point, you're either funding contracts or you're funding the plants or
Yeah,
something like
and,
that. And
we've already entered discussion with people like, because in a certain way, once we get the pilot plant working, okay, well, it is working, but once we get it up to commercial, when I say commercial operation, okay, then we sort of have a real world asset. We really do have a real world asset in the sense that the scaling up to 1,000 ton is going to be the same thing we just did. So we now have a much clearer path. And if you add to this offtake agreements, then it becomes a real independent asset.
like I say, real world asset, because you may be tokenizing real world assets.
We're open to all options that are in the best interest of shareholders because I am a significant shareholder with my shareholding and what I control.
Yeah, and everyone knows that I'm doing some work at Dubai. Partner announced the tokenized real world asset partnership. So hopefully that will be part of the solution going forward. Um, Evonik, last question for it. Evonik,
Mhm.
they've
Mhm.
announced that they're closing a couple of North American plants. Is that related to the issue that you're solving, which is, do you know why they're closing them? Is it inefficiencies and they got to start getting more efficient and maybe they're, I don't know, I'll say are they preparing for potentially partnering up with HPQ Silicon, knowing full well they're gonna have better economics? I know it's probably a stretch, but I'm gonna say it anyways.
You have to understand that traditional fuel silicon manufacture is part of a production chain. So if you only have the plan to convert the silicon tetrachloride, okay, into fumed silica, then you need to have a supplier of silicon tetrachloride. So eventually, as these market becomes more and more difficult because of the price variation, those issues, they could be end up losing one of their supplier of feedstock, which then renders the plant not economical because it's relatively too small and you have to ship the material into it. And so it all plays into it. So and you have to take a look. They're closing one fumed silica plant. They're closing one precipitated silica, but they've already announced that they're building a much more modernized precipitated silica plant. So probably they're going to be shifting the production from one to the other. And that's my speculation, my understanding. And the other one for fumed silica, they probably decide to centralize in one area, knowing full well if there's a new technology that comes in and basically grants flexibility, they will have capacity to ramp up again production if they need to. Does that make sense?
And before I hop into two questions that are posted on the Agoracom, I got to ask, how are things going with Evonik? Are you happy with the progress? Is everything moving forward? Just what's the status there? What can you tell us about the status there?
Let me say that after I posted this press release, I got, one of my contacts at Evonik says, okay, when we come up and visit and take the next dive, see the material. So I would dare to say that everything is going very, very well.
Okay. Hey, that's all we want to hear. That's two quick questions because we got to run soon. First one is from Poet Tech 2, and they spotted a problem that I saw on the press release. Some of the numbers didn't add up there. There was talk there about 480 kilograms and per day, but then later on you're saying 160 kilograms per day. Can you clarify, what the number was and quickly what happened there? Because it sounds like there was some transcribing error.
Probably describe more as transcription error because this press release has been more complicated than we ever thought to get to the finish line. Not because of what we put there, but because of what I consider to be anti-Canadian development rules or a way of interpreting the rules. So fundamentally, it's two types of math that are into it. But if we take a look at the numbers we produce on one time, it's going to be anywhere between 240 to 160, I think, a day. So let's not. We'll get the hard number once we get the system truly working, and it's a question of number of days we make it operate, percentage efficiency, and all those issues. So we'll try to figure out. They might also be. It could be a transcription error. I just copied from one press release to another because I was changing so many things that didn't dawn on me to take a look at it. Because in my mind, it's 50
second half of
tons.
that paragraph are the 106, because I think they're talking about 161 kilograms per day. So it could be between 161 and 240 kilograms per day.
Yeah, that's the number we always say. But it could be that the system that those were the original number, and now we're seeing we can do a bit more. We'll truly more once we have the system semi-continuous. Then we'll basically, update the information at that time. So it's in that bracket. The goal is, if we do 60 tons a year, I don't think anybody's going to complain. If we do 45, I don't think anybody's going to complain either.
No. Second question is from Stoneman. And I think we kind of answered it, but quote, I was under the assumption the purpose of the pilot plant was to prove the tech could be produced at scale versus in the laboratory. And after that proof, samples then would be sent to the companies under LOI, plus the ones under NDAs. Once the material is verified by them, then negotiations are to begin for a full-size commercial plant. What has changed? Given the pilot plant can only produce 50 tons per year, how can this be considered a commercial operation?
Okay. You're right, I did answer it, but it basically becomes at that moment, once we'll operate as a commercial, and as I said, it's also going to be a demonstration plan because, as we said, we can be either selling the product or selling the technology and showing, okay, this is a 50 ton per year plan. This is a 50 ton model per year model of what's going to be a 1,000-ton model. Then we'll show 3D rendering. So it's going to prove the concept. So it is commercial production. We can deliver material. It meets the criteria of commercial production. Is it going to be economical? No, it's not going to be economical. But it's part of the process to either sell the multiple offtake agreement, because we will need to send, because it's used in so many industries, there'll be a lot of demands for sample and multiple batch of sample, multiple quality of system, multiple systems. So having the system operating just so we can, we can sign off more sales deals really important. And probably we can also get some licensing deal on the technologies we're showing the system. So this is why we say it's going to be commercial. It'll be producing material commercially. Somebody needs it, we'll feed them and get those things advancing.
Buddy, thanks for joining us as always. I'm glad you kind of put this press release, because I was thinking over the weekend, I was thinking, hey, could this whole tariff situation, because you don't know how tariffs could impact different things and cause a domino effect. Because I actually ran into that in one of the family businesses where there was a bit of a domino effect that we didn't anticipate if all this happened. So I'm glad you clarified it. More importantly, really glad you're telling us that everything with Evonik is going as, what did you say? As I want to know, I misquote you, as well as expected, or
As
going
well
really
as
good.
it's going according to plan. You know,
So
with delays, but moving forward. But they see the beauty of the guys with Evonik. Okay, they haven't put any money in, but still they understand it's R&D. But they also understand that the next stage. So this is why they want to speed it up. They'll have to put money to dance at the table.
all right. All right. Well, let's hope we hear about that dancing sometime soon. Keep up the good work. Thanks for joining us. For everyone at home, thanks for the questions posted on the Agora column. Make sure to like, comment, share this. Let's help that algo. Have a great day. See you next time.
See you next time.
Hey, small cap fam. I hope you loved this interview because more than a dozen people were involved in its production for the sole purpose of making you happy. If so, can you take a moment to support both our awesome guest company and Agoracom? Your engagement means the world to us. First, if you enjoyed this video, give us a thumbs up by tapping that like button. It's a small gesture that helps this interview reach even more potential investors to discover today's guest. Second, we would love to hear your feedback on this interview, so please leave a comment below. Be sure to keep it clean, but feel free to poke fun at George. If you loved what you heard on today's video and want to dig into our guest company right away, take a look at the links in the description below. And while you're at it, hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell to never miss another great Agoracom small cap video. Thank you so much. We couldn't do any of this without you. Make sure to come back soon.